Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to take a little bit of time and talk to you about my new debut novel, Blind Influence. I've been writing this book for a long time, actually. I started writing it when I was working at Procter & Gamble in my off hours, I guess you could say. It started out as a spy novel. Basically, I believe I covered this in a blog a while ago. I had been reading the Robert Ludlum's Jason Bourne series and was starting to get frustrated a little bit about the fact that Jason Bourne never really catches Carlos Jackal. And I kind of challenged myself to write a book about espionage or spying. And from there, I ended up creating a number of wonderful characters. And my book actually kind of started going in a little bit of a different direction. I've been working on it for about 29 years. And I hand wrote most of the scenes, if you want to call them that. And I had probably about 7 inches of paper that I had written all of these different scenes on. And then doing all of the artist interviews that I did and also talking with a number of artists, I had always talked with folks and they'd come back and they said, I've been painting since I was a kid, or I've been drawing since I was a kid. And I really started thinking about what I had done since, when I was a kid, besides playing tag football and baseball and kickball and kick the can and all those great games that we played when we were younger. I started thinking about all of the things that I had written throughout my life, starting probably about when I was 4 or 5 years old, and making up stories and entertaining our friends. We used to put on plays and different things like that when we were really, really young, and we would write these plays ourselves. And I'm not particularly sure that it had very much plot or direction in them, but they were fun to write and they were fun to play, and act out. And from that point on, it was really kind of interesting because I had continued to do that really all through my life. And in the back of my mind, I would, even at, different times of whatever, think of different plays or different situations and couldn't wait till I got home and to write them down. And so the last year, I guess I challenged myself after listening to a number of artists speak about how they had done painting all their life. I decided that I was going to take the book that I had started writing so very long ago and organize it and publish it. And it is published now. It is out and available. You can buy it over on Amazon. The name is Blind Influence. You can look at it under my name, Linda Riesenberg Fisler, which I guess is kind of interesting because in the art world I'm kind of known as Linda Fisler, and in the writing world I'm known as Linda Riesenberg Fisler, and I think that in itself is a reflection on the fact that I actually started this before I got married. So, I include my maiden name in there, and basically, the characters in the book are very interesting. The main character is a female character. She is a lawyer. She lives in Washington, D.C. She's had an interesting background. I did a lot of research on Nicole because the time frame, the book is set in 1979, and I'm in the middle of writing a free prequel that will be available on Amazon and a number of other places that basically introduce you to all the characters. And it was really interesting doing a lot of research on Nicole because Nicole was actually in this naturally as a fictional character, but I had to go back because I wanted Nicole to go to Harvard Law. And I was just curious one day, and I thought, well, it's going to be probably around 1964. There probably weren't a lot of women lawyers during that time. There probably, I didn't even know if Harvard was accepting women lawyers into the law school. So, were they studying at Radcliffe, for example, or did Harvard not allow females? If not, then where would Nicole go to school? So, I started to do this research, and I came across some very wonderful information that was on the web, and basically Nicole did go to Harvard Law School in 1964. was, in fact, the first year that Harvard Law accepted women into the law school there. And these women faced a lot of scrutiny and harassment and abuse. It started out with 22 females who were accepted into the law program, and only 15 graduated. There were, sexual harassment, like I said, rape. There was one who committed suicide. It was an incredible story to read about these wonderful women. Pat Schroeder was one of those women, and as you know, she went on to become a senator, a very prominent figure. So these were trailblazers. These women were trailblazers, and Nicole her character ends up fitting very, very well into these trailblazers, and she's, a bit on the feminist side. She's definitely, for women equality, and, at the time, Gloria Steinem, all of these folks, these women trailblazers were out there, so it's really kind of, I really, really like this time period that Nicole and the other characters are a part of. And the other reason why I said it in 1979 was basically that's when I started writing it. So I had done a lot of research back then when I did start writing it, and I continued to do research through the whole writing of this book. There are two male characters, supporting characters. One of them is Sean Atkins, and Sean is a MI6 agent, and he has been on the trail of an assassin. So this is where the Jason Bourne part of it comes in, you can say. But he's been chasing this assassin for 10 years. There's a personal reason why, which I will not give out at this point because it spoils some of the plot. But there's a reason why that he is chasing this, and there's a reason why this assassin has been so successful, shall we say, in his kills. So there's a lot of mystery and things around Sean that you really don't, you get glimpses of in flashbacks throughout the book, but you really don't get to see a lot of what happened in Sean's life during this particular book. But there certainly, like I said, there is flashbacks throughout. You learn some things about how he's tied to the British political system, if you will, and a little bit about his family. And then there is another character, the third character, the main character, or supporting character, is Senator Robert Jenkins, who is a senator from North Carolina. He's a Democrat. He's single. He's basically considered the most eligible bachelor on Capitol Hill. He's very good looking. He's very charming. I have a few readers who told me that he's very shifty. And part of that is, at least in this book, there's a reason why for that. He holds a lot of information. He holds it very close to his chest so that it doesn't get out. And we're left basically, wondering just what he's going to do. Is he going to be a bad politician and greedy politician, or is he going to be, somebody that can help turn and pivot the way that politics would go in the next 10, 15, 20 years, which is kind of a dilemma that we get into towards the end of the book. And then there naturally is going to be a sequel to this called Love is Blind, and that'll go more into the story about, what exactly Jenkins is going to be able to do, or what he's going to be choosing to do. And I guess another reason why I chose 1979 was because I look at 1979, 1980, 81, maybe up to about 85 as a real pivotal point in American politics. We were all, before this, it was all Camelot, and then the Kennedy assassination happened, and then in the years following that, all the different investigations, and the Watergate happens, and politics just basically start taking on this very greedy and very dirty type of feel to them, and it's just basically, it has really, really gotten worse. It's, can we trust them? Can we not trust them? big money, big corporation, all of that is influencing how the senators and congressmen vote and what they stand for, and the media isn't really helping either. But it was one of these things where I just really wanted to think that if something happened in this time period, 1979, that really one person could influence, one senator could influence, and they chose to go a different way, and there was more transparency in the government. What would that look like? So it's kind of at a point where we might go off into parallel universes. So that's one reason for this big dilemma that Robert Jenkins is going to end up facing. And we only got a few minutes left, so one of the things that I wanted to do was to invite everybody over to my website. It's www.lindafisler.com/blind-series/blind-influence-book-summary, and you can read the summary there. That book is getting 5-star reviews out on Amazon. And then with this, what I'd like to do is, since this is the audio file, I'd like to introduce you to the first 2 pages of the book. I'm not the best reader in the world. There is a sneak peek available out at my website, and I do invite you out to look at that, and that is under that blind influence summary. If you get to my website, it'll be on the right-hand side, and what you need to do is you'll see on the right-hand side up at the top of Blind Series, mouse over that, click on the Order It Today, and there's a sneak peek out there for you to look at. The first paragraph opens, or the first chapter on day 1 opens in Paris, France. The alley was dark and littered with trash from the overflowing waste cans with the drunken, unconscious patrons of the saloon located at its end. The amber light which seeped from the cracks in the door and boarded up windows of the dilapidated building provided enough light for the passers-by to avoid stepping on any undesirable objects. Noise from the saloon was muffled, but still audible, as it drifted down the alley to one of the many streets of Paris. A man whose face was still handsome, though hiding the youth that had been beaten from him by the life he had chosen, prepared to tiptoe his way through the maze to the saloon door. His dark hair blended with the misty night. The collar of his raincoat flipped up, its belt tightly securing the taut raincoat around his sinuous body to protect the clothes beneath it. He stood at the corner of the street and alley, surveying them both. Had he been followed? Who was waiting for him in the dark alley or in that raucous saloon? Did he have his gun loaded? He withdrew the firearm and a Beretta, checking it in his surroundings. It was now ready in case he needed it. He glanced up and down the alley in the main thoroughfare before sliding around the corner into the misty darkness of the alley toward the amber light that betrayed the presence of some of the lowest life of Paris. As he tiptoed to the door, he heard a screech. He didn't bother to look. He had heard those types of screeches before. It was a rat, something he despised intensely and saw far too often. It was beyond this well-educated, well-dressed man why Jacques preferred to squander his life in such vile places. In this man's estimation, Jacques was paid rather handsomely for his information. Another screech caught the man's attention, and he pulled him from his thoughts. He paused as he waited to hear additional steps on the wet pavement. There were none, only snorts and a swat of a man awakened by the vile, dirty creature trying to steal a breadcrumb from the drunk's shirt. The man again started for the door of the saloon. He reached the door and breathed a quick sigh of relief just before placing his hand on the door. He entered the raunchy establishment, and he took a very deep breath. He winced from the stench, which made him wish he had done that. He opened the door slowly, trying not to attract any attention from swift movements. He entered the room cautiously, but calmly. stood momentarily in the darkened corner at the entry of this room, surveying it and all the chaos. No one was the least bit interested in him. The room was lit with sconces and light lamps, all draped with red and orange chiffon-like material. The man wasn't sure what kind of effect the owner was going for, but he was quite sure he had walked into a badly reproduced opera. The amber light danced with the smoke created by just about any type of smoking device he could think of, all being used by various patrons of the bar. In one corner of the room was very badly abused piano, which was annoyingly out of tune. Most of the patrons were around this piano, while a sloppily dressed, overweight woman sang as if she were an opera diva, complete with fan and headdress, screeching a very bad rendition of the Costa Diva aria, which sprang from her heavily red lipstick-laden mouth. Like fingernails on scratching down a chalkboard, the woman's attempt at singing grated on the man's nerve. As the shrill sound of a high note accosted the man's ears, he turned his head to see a darker area, far from the offending racket of the opera impersonators who, he surmised, were pretending to be performing at Covent Garden. As the man reached the darkened corner, he untied his coat and slid onto the stained and tattered velvet bench, his back to the wall, facing the door to the saloon. His form seemed to disappear into the darkness, his hands seen only as he called for the bartender over to the booth. He thought of ordering gin when the bartender arrived, but somehow felt whiskey was more appropriate. He found that thought strangely odd, but it didn't matter anyway. He had no intention of drinking it. Shortly after the bartender returned with his shot, a short Frenchman, complete with at least a 3-day growth on his face and the body odor to match, slid into the bench across from the smartly dressed man. The Frenchman smiled, wrinkled the skin around his eyes, and revealed missing teeth. "Monsieur Atkins," the Frenchman greeted the man, eyeing the shot of whiskey. "Jacques?" Atkins adjusted the collar of his raincoat as he watched Jacques begin to salivate. Jacques' eyes never strayed from the whiskey. "Consider it in advance," Sean Atkins added in his proper English accent, a stark conflict to Jacques' very common and broken English. So that's the first 2 pages of the book. And I'd like to invite you, naturally, there's more out on the sneak peek on my page. And I believe that's about all that is out on the Kindle version, out on Amazon. But I do invite you to read more. Like I said, the book is already receiving some 5-star reviews, which I'm very, very, very thankful for. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop me a note, and I'll be happy to answer them. So this is basically all that I'm going to say in this episode of Blind Influence. Maybe next time what we'll do is we'll read some teasers and have a little bit more fun. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll take an opportunity to check out the book. Again, it's Blind Influence, available on my website. If you want an autographed copy, available through Amazon. It's in all of the bookstores, Barnes & Nobles, places like that. It's available out on Kindle, and I believe it'll be available soon on Nook. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.